Hello, we are the No Respect Gamers, here to discuss the GameFAQS Best Game of the Decade contest, covering all games from 2010 to 2019. I'm your host, Shocks. Joining me are Dabu, Sonic, and Turbo, and we're just going to dive right in here to Division 1. I guess I should say before we start this, we're all experts. We've all played a lot of video games. In fact, we've conquered almost all the video games from the last contest. So we just look at this list, we've covered basically all these games. So we know what we're talking about, and we're very excited to share our expertise and knowledge.
Just clarify, we've beaten 90 of the 128 games from the last contest. But we're on track to beat all 128 games on, let's see, December 26, 2021.
So jumping right in here, I don't mean to waste anybody's time, but we have to discuss every single match. So we have our 1 seed, Breath of the Wild, one of the hottest games out on the Switch, versus Outer Worlds, kind of a New Vegas spiritual successor. Turbo, what do you got here?
Breath of the Wild next.
All right.
I mean,
so I think we should try and predict how much Breath of the Wild's going to
Okay.
It's a Nintendo game. First of all, even if it's a bad Zelda game, it would have been it would have gone pretty far. But this is actually considered the best Zelda game by a lot of people.
So how poorly would Breath of the Wild have to do in this match for you to think it can't win the whole contest? Like get below 70% or what?
I think the Outer World I think Nintendo would have to piss off everyone by like catering to China, and then the Outer Worlds would have to basically reach out to the entire community and the entire internet for it to stand a chance.
Remind me, I don't remember. Did Fallout 4 make this contest?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
It did. It's in Division 2.
In Division 2.
Oh yeah, okay. I was just thinking, Outer Worlds is obviously not a Fallout game, but it very much is in a way. So I'm surprised it's a 16 seed to begin with. I feel like if it was a higher seed, like it maybe should be, it would have a chance to knock someone off, because it did receive a lot of praise in the media.
Fallout 4? Are you talking about 4 or New Vegas?
The Outer Worlds.
The Outer World. I honestly don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Are we talking? I thought we were talking about.
All right. Who doesn't have Breath of the Wild winning? Can we just move on? Okay.
I'm upset no one answered my question. I want to know how poorly it has to do here for people not thinking it can win the contest.
I mean, I don't think you can look at each battle like that. I think each battle is its own thing, and the results of one contest doesn't necessarily indicate the strength or weakness of the game.
Yeah, I think the attention span of all GameFAQS users is probably a week at length. So they will not remember their choices anyways in the previous tournaments.
So next we have, I think, a very intriguing 8-9 matchup between two games from completely different genres. Halo Reach.
I did not even explain my standpoint on the first match.
Do you really have anything unique to add?
So, Outer Worlds is a spiritual successor to Fallout and the Elder series title. However, Breath of the Wild is just superior in every way because it is not a spiritual successor, but it actually does the series better than Outer Worlds does. We can move on now.
Okay. Halo Reach versus Life is Strange. We'll start with Sonic so he doesn't get jealous. Who do you got?
So Halo Reach is, I think it's like, it's the 5th installment, right? It's like after Combat Evolved. And it has a really good single player and multiplayer experience. So
Yeah.
I could see that actually favoring, both the single player and multiplayer genres, as opposed to Life is Strange, which is really a niche market with the type of game it is and the type of audience it attracts. So I think Halo Reach will attract more of the viewer set from GameFAQS users.
Combat Evolved is the first game, right? Every game in the series is after it. As an expert, you're aware
Well,
of this?
I mean, Halo Reach is a prequel to Combat Evolved.
You mean storyline-wise?
Okay.
Yeah, storyline-wise.
I actually kind of disagree. I don't feel like Halo games generally do well here. And I feel like Life is Strange is a game that is kind of up your average GameFAQ user's alley. Like, it's just like it's a story-driven game, a lot of lore, a lot of plot. I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Dabu?
I recall how poor Chloe did in the character battle, and I think Life is Strange has no chance. I think people are not going to know what that game is, and they're just going to know what Halo is. And I think it's going to be set up because there's going to be 4 matches in one day. I think you're going to be voting on all 4 at once. So people are going to be like, yes, I want to vote for Breath of the Wild because that's the best game ever. And then so they're going to be forced to vote in this match, and not knowing either game, they're just going to vote for the one that has the better name recognition, which is Halo.
Do you really think the character battle is indicative of results of this contest? Because
No, but I think it suggests people have not played Life.
I think the romantic tones of Life is Strange is also very niche, honestly. I mean, we're in 2020, but I think it's still niche.
So I feel like Life is Strange is just for a different age group than most of GameFAQs populace. I don't see them enjoying this game.
Wait, so what age group is Life is Strange?
I feel like Life is Strange is for the younger age group.
Yeah, Life is Strange is like 18 to 25.
Halo Reach. So Halo Reach is actually one of the original, original as in one of the last Bungie game for Halo, which was remembered really fondly. I feel like it's actually gonna get stronger with time. The original, the Covenant versus what's the other faction? The Human faction war. That's the original part. I don't know what happens afterward, but Halo, that was basically the prime of Halo's lifespan.
Let's be real. Like, if Halo doesn't have like a indicator of like what part of the series they are, no one even knows the differences between Halo Reach and Halo Combat Evolved and the other Halos. But they will know what Halo means.
I think what's good here is that this is a matchup where you can kind of guess, because whoever wins is going to lose the next round anyway, so you're not going to be punished for getting it wrong. But this is how you can kind of pull ahead of other people, because I'm going to pick Life is Strange. Now, obviously, here I'm outnumbered 3-1, so we're going to go with Halo. But, don't be surprised when Life is Strange wins. Anyway, on to Final Fantasy 15 versus what remains of Edith Finch.
Oh, I will be surprised.
Now, normally Final Fantasy games perform extremely well. If you look at the best game ever contest, every Final Fantasy game won at least its first round, and most of them won at least 2 matches. But this is kind of different, because 14 and 15 are the only Final Fantasies in this contest, and I don't think 15 is necessarily, there's not nostalgia for it. So, any chance of an upset here, Dabu?
No, not really, not at all. I played through What Remains of Edith Finch. It's a cute little game, but it's not really much of a game, honestly. It's just one of those sort of walk through, kind of like a story thing. Basically.
Yeah. I think Dabu and I are the only ones that played What Remains of Edith Finch, and it is a walkthrough narrative storytelling game. It is very niche on what market and what type of gamer actually plays it. And even within that niche, it actually does not stand out. But Final Fantasy 15 is just globally known, right?
Any disagreement here, Turbo?
No, I say Final Fantasy takes it just for being a Final Fantasy game. It's not one of the least popular one, and I think Square's business practice kind of turned away a lot of people, but I still think it's a stronger title, it's a AAA title, and just has more resource behind it.
I'm curious.
Name recognition.
I have one question. You say it's the least popular title. Are we talking about stock when it first released, or are we talking about after it's had all its DLCs released, the full series?
I say popular as in how much it's liked and remembered by the people.
But I'm curious, in this tournament, what are we basing Final Fantasy 15? The end product or the shippable product?
Well, I say the end product, including all the DLCs, because I think that's the default ways of releasing games these days. All companies do it. What do you guys think?
I just want to know why World of Final Fantasy is not in the bracket. It's a Final Fantasy game that's more up GameFAQs sort of style.
Yeah, but it's too cute.
I'm blaming all you people listening to this right now for not going out and buying that game and giving it very poor sales. I just want you to know I don't like you.
It is too childish.
It is on. Have you played any Final Fantasy up to like 10?
Most of the old school RPGs are like that though. It's just looks like the games from the older days when there was the good Final Fantasies. You know.
Let's remember there's a Pokemon on this list. It's like a 3 seed. So we're talking about too childish. We already have that covered. Okay, I have Final Fantasy 15 moving on. Let's go to Hollow Knight versus Tales of Berseria. Am I saying that right? Berseria?
Yeah, Berseria.
So I think what's interesting is there's a lot of indie games here. Hollow Knight is an indie game. I don't know if Life is Strange would count as one. I guess probably.
It is.
I think that's kind of interesting, especially compared to the Best Game Ever contest where there were like a couple. But here we've already encountered 2 in the first 4 matches. I guess probably 3 because what remains of Edith Finch's as well. I actually really like Hollow Knight here because I think Hollow Knight, I don't know how many people have played it on GameFAQs, but it's like, everybody talks about Metroidvania games, but man, it does it so well. It's such a good game. What do you think, Turbo?
I agree. I like Hollow Knight. It's just a good indie game. Very polished and gameplay is good. Actually, it has multiple endings. I enjoy that. Berseria, I must say this decade has not been kind to the Tales series. It's falling off pretty hard. I give it to Hollow Knight.
Yeah, Berseria was definitely a budget game.
Yeah, the character development, the story, everything about Berseria is just really subpar, while Hollow Knight, obviously it can't compare to like character development and such, but it does its own genre so well in the indie series and the Metroidvania playstyle that it just emphasizes that much better than Berseria would as like a typical JRPG.
Hollow Knight's going to move on. We're going to go to Monster Hunter World versus Bravely Default Flying Fairy. Sonic, who do you have here?
I have Monster Hunter World just because it is a much more popular co-op experience to play that game, and it is well polished in the sense that for a Monster Hunter game, it does it really well. I know Cameron and I have played it, and we're still meaning to beat it, but it is an amazing game. Bravely Default. This was actually the sequel to Bravely Default, right?
Yeah, the 2DS version. I think.
Yeah, I did not.
I
did not hear too much of its of its strong points. I know the base one was superior in almost every way. So I have Monster Hunter World winning.
I also have Monster Hunter World winning. I have not played either game, and I don't know very much about either one. So I just looked at the seeds and it's like, well, if I don't know much about either one, probably most people on the website don't either. So they're just going to go with the higher seed.
So I think W would really like Bravely Default. You were just talking about how games should look like that. Bravely Default is right down your alley, I believe. It's a drop system and everything, just like the old Final Fantasy. But I'm gonna go with Monster Hunter World. It is, I believe, one of the top 5 selling Capcom games of all time, and I think it's second behind just Street Fighter 2 as the best-selling Capcom games of all time.
Really? You just knew that off the top of your head? Is that true?
He's a Capcom fan, man.
He's a fighting Capcom fan.
Something recently about Monster Hunter World. I think it is the best-selling now. That DLC came out.
Turbo, thank you for doing your research. I just want to point that out. You give this program a lot of legitimacy, and I appreciate that. Unlike Dabu here, who hasn't played either games.
Dabu's just making up. Yeah, he's talking out of his ass, not butt.
Hey, let's keep this G. This little kids, the 2 of them that are on GameFAQs.
Go look at the topic list on the GameFAQs board.
Wait, does butthead ass actually move up rating?
We try. We don't want any cursing or any spoilers. That's the rules here. All right. I know I say this a
What's
lot.
the topic title there?
I also
Come
like
on.
to point out that Monster Hunter introduced a really nice format that people with not a lot of time can actually enjoy. Is that the progression is amazing. I think most of GameFAQs populace is just like older now with kids, so they would probably enjoy Monster Hunter. It doesn't feel like a grind at all.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
but GameFAQs users don't have many friends, so you like Bravely Default would be right up their alley as like a single player experience, right?
I don't know,
But
man. On days where I feel like I don't have much time, when I try to play Monster Hunter World, I get mad when the dinosaur, like I have to chase him around like 6 times to kill him. I don't know. I feel like I'm wasting my time then.
Well, if you are one of those users who does not have many friends, send me a private message and I will give you a great Discord. You can make many new friends.
that's also a valid point. Good job, W.
Okay, so I say this a lot, but this really is to me a very intriguing matchup because I think there's a lot of upset potential here. My personal feelings might be getting in the way, but Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, the newest From Software game, versus Ni no Kuni. This is the original Ni no Kuni, right? Or not the
Yeah.
original? Is it the original?
Yeah,
It's the port of the original to the PS3. It was originally on the I want to say the
PlayStation
DS.
3.
I played
No,
it.
it was originally on the DS under a different type, just Ni no Kuni without the Wrath of the White Witch part.
Oh.
And then
No, it
they
was
added some
both.
stuff to it for the PS3. And it's recently been remastered, I believe, on the PS4 as well, and the Switch.
Yeah, so I know the sequels sucked, but the original is like really popular. It's a really popular RPG. And then
It's a really cute game.
yeah, and Sekiro is like, I don't know. I'm really surprised it got seated this high because I don't think it's. I don't know. Let's go because a couple of you are Sekiro fans. So Sonic, I know you like Sekiro a lot. What do you think here?
So I think Sekiro is an amazing game. The reason why is because it is a very challenging game, and its setting and storytelling, it's very reminiscent of the Dark Souls series. Especially the environments that you go through and the bosses that you fight are very Dark Souls reminiscent. The issue with Ni no Kuni is that you could be 40 hours in and you're still getting tutorials and your handheld throughout the game, which is really irritating as like an RPG where you're like, please stop holding my hand. While Sekiro stops holding your hand like in the beginning of the game. So it allows you to just play the game at your own devices, experience it, learn new playstyles, experience like boss fights, and figure it out on your own, as opposed to Ni no Kuni, which is like a hand holding simulator.
Yeah, but doesn't the average GameFAQs user want their handheld? I mean, if you're desperate enough for help on a video game that you have to get on this website, isn't Ni no Kuni what you like?
I would argue against that. I think personally they actually love to have their handheld, but when they're doing votings and their discussion points, they definitely want to um, seem better than they actually are. So Sekiro will definitely take the vote.
I see. So you're saying they vote for Sekiro to look like a cool gamer?
Yes,
I see.
absolutely.
Some
I actually
psychology.
like that reasoning. I like that reasoning.
Yeah, there's
I'm
some
gonna
good
go.
psychology going on here.
So I'm like Sonic. I personally really enjoy Sekiro. The battle system is amazing. Um, they do lack a lot of boss variety compared to the Dark Souls series, but I say it's a really good step in the right direction. I just had a blast playing it. It was challenging, and I just was so invested in it.
What do you mean it lacks boss variety? You don't like the total 3 unique bosses in the game?
Oh no, there's more.
What do you mean?
There's, like, so they
There's
did
more than 3.
Unique
it's more than 3.
bosses.
They
You just fight-
recycled a lot of the.
You fight the same guy like 5 times.
The unique bosses in Ni no Kuni is like a giant rat that's
Right.
bigger than the
Well,
normal
Ni no
rat.
Kuni is like Ni no Kuni is like it's sort of like a Dragon Quest game. It has like collecting monsters and all that. I'm just really not into that. I don't know. I enjoyed it for a bit, but then it just kind of feel like a Dragon Quest game, and I'd rather just play Dragon Quest.
I mean, you bought Temtem, which is a Pokemon simulator. I would
So
think you would
I
enjoy
refunded
the
it.
collection
I
series.
refunded it. But no, Sekiro hands down for me. Just I have Sekiro going pretty far. This is Sekiro.
But remember, we're voting by what we think the results will be, not by our personal favorite. So with that,
I
you
think-
still have Sekiro going far?
I think a lot of people would share. If the game is good, a lot of people would share this opinion. I have faith in it.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
So you two have
there's-
Sekiro winning. Dabo, I believe you do too.
I do as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of psychology.
First round, I have the higher seed winning every match.
I think people who've never even beat Sekiro but have seen playthroughs or have not, or have at least tried it, will vote for it, just to act like they've beaten the game.
What I don't understand about that is that votes are not public. So like nobody's ever gonna know what you voted for.
Yeah, it's personal satisfaction, right? Like personal achievement. You want to make yourself feel better.
I see. Okay. I am completely lost with regards to that assessment, but we're just gonna move on. All right. So we have a Telltale game. The Walking Dead versus Bastion. Of course, Telltale went bankrupt, and they're now they're like a different company now, right?
No, they're bankrupt.
Are they still? I thought they got back together as a different company, or they got bought out.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I was not aware of
Yeah.
that.
Did you hear about this?
No.
Oh,
Telltale. Okay.
I've played a grand total of
I mean, it
one
might be
games.
true, but
Me and
I need
Turbo,
to-
me and Turbo are clearly the only ones here doing the research and trying to bring respectability to this program.
All
I
I
don't even know
know-
what Bastion is.
All I know is
My
Bastion is a great indie narrative, top-down game, and it's an adventure game with borderline RPG elements to it. However, Walking Dead is just superior, in my opinion, towards the narrative and storytelling, because this is one of the first games that actually made the Telltale series and created that genre of game, that game style, right? That narrative storytelling that progresses with each episode. Obviously, all the other Telltale games, aside from Wolf Within, were pretty trash, but Walking Dead was one of the first to establish the genre, so it definitely will take the vote, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to unpack here because Walking Dead is obviously also a very popular TV series. So I think people will vote for that just on name alone. Bastion is also kind of old. I think it came out in 2010. Am I right on that?
2011.
2011. It was a really popular, like you said, indie adventure game. It had the narrator that commented on everything you did, which is pretty cool. But as we said,
Are you
it's-
reading the wiki?
no, I've played it because I actually play these games.
Oh, nice.
But
I've played some of these games too. I've gotten platinum trophies for 4 of the games in this division.
I actually prefer my games to actually have gameplay elements, like interacting with the game. So I have Bastion. I believe other people would feel the same. Telltales, I don't know. I've seen good ones. I heard some good things about good ones, but there's also some that are hit or miss. So I don't know particular about this one.
Like I said, this was one of the first in the series, and it hit a home run in terms of generating extreme popularity with the Telltale game series.
I know
And it created that genre, basically. Life is Strange is essentially a retelling or like a spiritual successor of the Telltale series.
it's interesting.
so
But
me,
I think Bastion. Sorry, go ahead.
me and Sonic have Walking Dead. Turbo is Bastion. Dabu, who do you have?
Walking Dead.
Okay, we will go with Walking Dead, but I do think, we have 3 people for 1, so it's like a 75-25 just from us 4. I think it will be a close match. I think
It's not going to be a close match.
Okay.
Just letting you
It's
know.
not a close match.
We have a problem. I can't actually... It literally wouldn't let me pick Walking Dead. There we go. Okay, so on to the 215 Dragon Quest 11 versus Legend of Heroes Trail in the Sky SC. So I'm playing Dragon Quest 1 right now. I hope 11 is better than 1. It must
I
be.
think
It
I
is.
think
Definitely
Turbo
it is,
is the
for
only
sure.
one that's played the Legend of Heroes
I
series.
probably am.
So by all means, start.
All right, so I have Dragon Quest 11. So like I said, instead of playing instead of playing Ni no Kuni, I'd rather just play Dragon Quest. This is my pick. Dragon Quest has always been a stable, one of the staples, and it's good for JRPGs. It's gonna be here for a long time. The Legend of Heroes actually has one of the greatest world building I've ever seen in the RPG. Just like every NPC has a name and you can interact with them, and like when things happen in the game, you can go talk to the NPC, and you can follow their lives basically. Really interesting, but just don't see the gameplay element there. So I say you will need a lot of time and invested in it to enjoy it, which I
Yeah,
did.
and in my opinion, the Trails in the Sky series, it's very slow paced, extremely slow paced with how it starts out. And just like the other games, like it holds your hand and it's very difficult um to actually lose in the game. I mean, you do have to instantly pot up after every battle,
So personally,
which
I
is
like
an
it
artificial
better.
difficulty.
I like the Trails in the Sky series a lot better, but Dragon Quest is definitely have more appeal, I believe. So I will pick that to win over it.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the GameSFAQ users will pick Dragon Quest over Legend of Heroes. It's just not a very popular game in terms of like the general math.
David, do you have anything unique or interesting to add?
No, not really. I think Dragon Quest XI is a great game, though, so I should recommend people play it. I've heard a lot of people say Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky is a good game, but I have not played it myself, so I have nothing really to add.
All right, we're gonna wrap back up to the top. Breath of the Wild versus Halo Reach. Let's go. Let's take a unique angle here. I want each of you to tell me what has to happen for Halo Reach to win. What has to happen in the world, on the internet, whatever. W start.
Coronavirus has to spread out of control and take out everyone except those who own an Xbox or something, I guess.
Okay, Turbo.
I agree. I would say maybe Nintendo pissed off the entire world with some controversy, and if Microsoft somehow gathered the entire fan base of Halo to vote here in the content.
You know, that's actually a good point. Do you think these companies, Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, do you think they interfere? You know how the Russians interfere with our election? Do you think they interfere with these polls? Do you
I
think
mean, Nintendo started doing way better at some point. I think that's when the interference started.
I
We-
think the interference from those companies only has to do if it's revolved.
Why would they
with
care about
piracy.
GameFAQs? So if it's
I
maybe
think. I
if
think.
it's like some kind of big website or like like an E3 event or like Reddit, I guess they would interfere. But GameFAQs is like such a small part of it.
What are you talking
Well-
about? Wits contest is a huge deal. We're trying to determine the best game of this decade.
Okay, so the only way Halo Reach will beat Breath of the Wild is if like the 5 users on GameSFAQ that play that game start DDoSing every single Breath of the Wild / Nintendo fan during the voting process. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay. I obviously moved Breath of the Wild forward. I mean, does anybody have anything to add here? I'm not trying to be, you know, I'm not trying to diminish this matchup, but it just seems so unlikely for Halo Reach to win.
So here's my question: do you think Outer Worlds or Halo Reach does better against Breath of the Wild?
Halo Reach.
I think Halo Reach is better than Outer Worlds. The reason why is because Outer Worlds is a spiritual successor to those, the Fallout and Skyrim Elder Scrolls series, but it is not as good. And Halo Reach, the reason why it's so popular is because it has not only a great single player experience, but a multiplayer experience. And most games actually take a huge hit from like Metacritic scores, based on like their multiplayer experience. But Halo Reach actually doesn't. So it combines like that single player and multiplayer experience into one, and it makes it a much more fulfilling game as opposed to Outer Worlds, which is just an inferior single player experience.
Moving on to Final Fantasy 15 versus Hollow Knight. Sonic, who do you have here?
So I actually have Hollow Knight winning Final Fantasy 15. The reason why is I know Final Fantasy 15 is a staple on GameFAQs, and people will recognize it even if they haven't played it. But as Turbo mentioned earlier, it is one of the least popular Final Fantasy 15 games, while Hollow Knight, as an indie game, has not actually received much criticism at all from player base. And in terms of just like comparing the gameplay elements, and if we go off like shipping, Hollow Knight definitely is superior in that regard.
I actually have Final Fantasy 15. For the same reason as a previous round, is that it's going up against an indie game. Hollow Knight is I agree with that. Hollow Knight is more well received and well liked, but there are people like Dabo who probably never played either, and they'll just vote for the name. So Final Fantasy 15 for me.
So I thought I was going to have a real big upset pick here, but I have Hollow Knight winning. And I think it's just because Final Fantasy 15 has not been well received at all on this website in particular.
I'm torn. I know Final Fantasy 15 has not been well received, but I don't know how big Hollow Knight is, because Hollow Knight is so good, but I don't know how many people know about it. And, you know...
that's the reason why I voted for 15.
Yeah, enough people to nominate it to get a higher seed.
Yeah, but Grand Theft Auto 5 got a high seed, but it's not going to go very far. Like, I think the nominations don't correspond.
Wait, Grand Theft Auto 5 not going to go far? What's it going up against? Hold on.
Grand Theft Auto 5 lost to, like, Super Mario RPG or something in the Best Game Ever contest. There's no way it's getting far.
Best game ever. This is the best game of the decade.
Yeah, so. It doesn't matter. It's still not going to win.
All right, we'll go to that
one. Well, we'll get to that in a future video.
I believe you can get a high seed if a subset of all the users really likes this game and they all vote for it. It will get a high seed, but that doesn't mean facing a game with a lot of popularity that it will beat that game. And I feel like I'm leaning more towards Final Fantasy 15 here, only for that reason. Even though Hollow Knight is probably the better game. So that actually.
How are we going to decide?
So that's a split vote.
That's a split vote.
Is there anyone else on Discord we can just bring up?
I don't know. I can't alt tab.
No, we can't.
I can flip a coin. I don't have a coin though.
I was kind of torn also, so
I could literally go either way with it.
All right, let's do rock paper scissors on 0. Call out your thing. 3. All right, it'll be Cameron and I on 0.
On 0.
3, 2, 1. Scissors.
All right, so that's Hollow Knight. You picked Hollow Knight, right? Okay, we'll have Hollow Knight moving forward. Monster Hunter World versus, according to you guys, best game of all time, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Dalva, who do you got here?
I have Shadows Die Twice because I think that game just carries the respect for having this perceived difficulty, and that's the only reason I picked it, because I don't know enough about the other two games in the other side.
Yeah, in my opinion, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice just has a great single-player experience and a narrative, as opposed to Monster Hunter, which really doesn't have a narrative. Like, the cutscenes are corny as fuck. The boss fights are great.
Am I watching language?
But do you guys feel that?
My apologies.
Do you guys feel that maybe
we gotta redo the whole video now? What are you doing?
Damn. Gosh darn it!
Right, keep going.
I think just because of the single player experience, perceived difficulty, and as I mentioned, it like bolsters the average GameFAQs user's personal satisfaction and like ego. I think Shadows Die Twice is gonna beat Monster Hunter.
But do you guys feel that maybe Monster Hunter would have a bigger player base just from the how popular it is? That it would just have the bigger vote for it because of it.
Yeah.
You can't really compare the two, right?
I mean,
Monster Hunter, it is a multiplayer games as a service series, right? Sekiro is a single player experience where if you're comparing at launch, Sekiro has the higher viewer base. If you're comparing it as a games as a service, obviously Monster Hunter World is gonna win, right?
What about like just the number of players? Like just who, like the entry, like how easy they are to enter into it, right? Like people can just pick up Monster Hunter and be like, I'll just play this with my friends, as opposed to Sekiro, which is like, oh, you need to be prepared and play this game and grind.
Yeah, but this is GamesFAQ, right? It's not like for casual people. GamesFAQ people like the perceived difficulty. They like the challenge, even though they probably have not beaten Sekiro. They like that um, perceived challenge, like Dava mentioned.
Okay.
So 2 of you have Sekiro. Turbo, you have Sekiro as well, right?
Yes, I have Sekiro.
Okay, I actually have Monster Hunter, but we'll go Sekiro. Brings us to The Walking Dead versus Dragon Quest XI. I feel like Dragon Quest XI is the easy favorite here. Does anybody disagree?
I do. I think Walking Dead is the favorite. The reason why is because I don't think many people on GamesFAQ has played Dragon Quest XI, but a lot more people's played Walking Dead.
Wait, what? You think more people played Walking Dead than Dragon Quest 11?
I think so, just because of the length of time it takes to actually beat Walking Dead. It is a lot more accessible to players playing the game. So, in my opinion, I voted for Walking Dead based on GamesFAQ users.
Okay, you're delusional. Everyone else.
So people who come here look for facts to play a video game. They're not gonna look for fact for Walking Dead, right? That game does not require any guide or anything like that. So obviously, the people coming here would be more likely to be Dragon Quest fans than Walking Dead fans. That's just my 2 cents.
I think it would be a crazy upset if Walking Dead won this. So I very much disagree.
I think Walking Dead has a chance.
Well, that's one less bracket I have to worry about. All right, round 3.
Breath of the Wild versus Hollow Knight. What does it take to beat Breath of the Wild? Like, I just can't see it losing to any of these games.
That's because it won't.
Yeah, will not lose. It has all of the elements that Hollow Knight has, except the Metroidvania style, but it does everything else in a superior fashion, and it's just a much better experience for like a wider audience as opposed to Hollow Knight. You have to really be a Metroidvania fan to really enjoy Hollow Knight. While Breath of the Wild, you really don't. Like, it is a much more accessible game to a wider audience.
Okay, all in favor, Breath of the Wild. If you disagree, state your reason now, or forever hold your peace.
Go ahead. Follow along.
Sekiro versus Dragon Quest XI. This is not how I see it, or this is not how I would have saw this bracket ending up, so this is actually an intriguing matchup.
I have Dragon Quest XI. I think it's going to be much stronger than most of the games in this bracket.
What happened to the logic of gamers wanting to, vote for a challenging game to boost their own ego?
Well, that's when they don't really know either game.
So people
When
don't
they
know Monster
know
Hunter.
Dragon Quest, I mean, they've heard of Monster Hunter, but they don't respect Monster Hunter.
I mean, Monster Hunter is
very
like the same fans that like Dark Souls and those series will like Monster Hunter, except Monster Hunter doesn't have like a narrative or story behind it. So if they're familiar with that, they're familiar with Sekiro, and I think Sekiro is gonna beat out Dragon Quest in the series.
Speaking of the narrative of Monster Hunter, what's your opinion on the cutscenes?
I think the cutscenes are extremely corny, and they literally do not make any sense.
So you have Sekiro winning this. Dalby, you said you had Dragon Quest. Turbo, what do you have?
Correct.
I have Sekiro.
Man, you guys have a lot of faith in Sekiro. I just don't get it, man.
I just love the game to death. That's probably, I would even say personally, it's in my top 3 of the decade, even possibly top 10 of all time.
I just don't see it having the same appeal that like a Dark Souls has, though. Like
I
Dark
mean, of
Souls
all
gets to-
time, that's a bold statement. that
I
Trevor
don't have
made.
that list.
I mean, I'm
like,
not that
I don't know.
confident in it. If it lost to Nino Kuni in the first round, I wouldn't be too surprised. I don't think it will, but it wouldn't surprise me very much. I'd be like,
It's
oh,
a
that's
close
just
one for me though. It's a close one just because Giant Quest has it's a very solid game and has name appeal. It's a close one, but Sekiro barely edges it out for me.
Well, I have Dragon Quest winning because it's an extremely popular game and a
So
game.
it's another split.
Yeah.
All right, on 0, 3, 2, 1, paper.
Rock. All right, so Sekiro moves on.
Yes.
This bracket definitely not gonna win. Well, I'm guessing two of us have Sekiro beating Breath of the Wild, so she would just go ahead and do rock paper scissors.
No, I think we have everyone.
I would
voting
love
for
to. I
Breath
would
of
love
the
to say.
Wild.
So, I think I've already made it clear here. My opinion of Breath of the Wild. I personally did not like it, but I'm gonna take. I'm still gonna pick Breath of the Wild. Just I don't see it losing.
Really? You didn't like it?
I thought it was an amazing experience
It's
when I
not
first got
as good
my
as people claim that
Switch.
it is. It's a good game. It's not a good. It's compared. I mean, I've played better Zelda games. That's all.
Did you really immerse yourself though when you played and you actually experienced like going around the world, the storytelling,
I
or
mean,
did
I
you
just
just
don't
follow
enjoy
like
it.
the story?
I just follow.
And
I
quest,
mean,
right?
I'm just not used to that kind of Zelda game. I like my games kind of like the older one style, where you just go around and follow like enter a dungeon and follow the
So that's that problem, right? If I think the majority of the people like those types of games because you really get immersed in just exploring, and it has so much more reward value
Well, also
for exploring as opposed to other games. Like Sekiro, there isn't much reward in exploring. There are a little bit, but Breath of the Wild just does it so much better.
I can see that, but I also don't like the fact that your weapon breaks like every three use or something like that. I hated that. It just doesn't feel very rewarding to play it.
Yeah, but if you actually immerse yourself in the game,
I
that
enjoy
becomes
Zelda
less
game.
of a problem.
I love Zelda game when you pick up a new item and then you figure out how to solve a puzzle. You know, it just every step it just like wait, there's a correct way to solving it, and once you figure it out, it's like wow, you get that rewarding feeling. You know,
Okay, so you're voting for Sekiro or Breath?
I'm voting for Breath.
Everybody's
Best
voting for
Breath.
Breath. If you're not voting for Breath of the Wild, you might be kicked off this podcast. So
I mean,
I
last
voted-
round's decision wants me to kick people off this podcast.
I mean, I voted for Walking Dead, right? I'm kidding.
what did you say, Davu?
I'm saying that the last round before this is also making me think of kicking people off this podcast.
Yeah. We might have some new people in attendance for Division 2. We'll see. All right, so that's going to wrap up Division 1. We have Breath of the Wild moving on. You can go ahead and pencil that in or use ink because it's a guarantee since we've picked it. Any last second thoughts from you guys before we call it good?
I'm really excited to have this contest out. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm a
Yeah,
little sad that there's so many topics saying that people aren't excited about this contest because I think there's a lot to be excited about.
I think this contest actually has probably the best games of the decade, and this division is pretty self-explanatory, so it's a little less interesting, but the other divisions within this tournament, it's going to be a lot more exciting.
Pretty self-explanatory, but we have some very controversial picks.
Not for the division winner.
Yeah, well, not for the winner, but okay. I don't know. Any closing remarks? Or maybe we should all go around and say what game is missing from the bracket that we think should be
Let's
here.
do that at the end after we're
Yeah,
done with
okay.
the divisions.
All right, fine. You got some time to think about it
Okay.
if you're invited for the next podcast, which some of you may not be.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. Signing off, we are the No Respect Gamers. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon.